Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. Setting up your home away from home in your dorm should be a fun and relaxing process. As we continue to honor some amazing women for Women's History Month who are bridging the gap between generations, we are honored to welcome the highly sought-after, award-winning CEO, interior designer, and principal designer of NKDG, Miss Nikki Klugh. Learn how she developed a love for interior design and discover ways to create a sacred space in your dorm, bedroom, or apartment. Enjoy. Welcome to the podcast, Nikki.
Oh my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. It's so good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Highly sought after. I know that to be a fact. You are a busy lady.
Yes, ma'am.
So grateful to have you during this time.
Yes. We made it happen.
Absolutely. So you have a little downtime. You're relaxing today?
Just a bit, just a tad. Just got in town yesterday working on a project in DC and then headed out again next week back to Texas. So getting some things taken care of here at home. But yeah, it's been a wild ride these last couple of years. Just an amazing journey. Thanks to COVID, everyone started caring more about their homes. So we love it.
That's beautiful. And yeah, I was checking out your site and you were talking about sacred spaces. And I was like, oh, she's so right on. And I was just wondering, is that what motivated you to get into interior design? I mean, how did all this start for you?
Oh my goodness. I didn't have the language to put to it back then, but sacred spaces is definitely something I've always sought, just to have for myself. And it goes way back to when I was a young girl. My mom and I would create these rooms together in our tiny little home in Houston, Texas. She was working as a manager in an oil company, and that was her 9 to 5, Monday through Friday, but the weekends, now that was our time together and that was our fun time. She actually majored in fashion design in college, so it was always a creative spirit, but, just took the first good paying job with benefits to support our little girl. So weekends were our time together, and we would decorate the family room and hang draperies in there and change out the ceiling fan to a nicer, prettier light fixture and install crown molding. Like we would do all these DIY, weekend warrior projects together. And that just, sparked an interest in me to the point where I could see how you can turn something that's an ugly duckling into a beautiful swan. That transformation story is something that always inspires me. And so I just love that I get to do that day in and day out now.
Oh, that's beautiful. And you were able to do that with your mom. How cool is that?
Yeah. And I didn't go back to school officially to get my degree until after my youngest son was born. Went back to school, got my interior design degree, but we had moved from city to city because my husband was in the Navy. He retired after 32 years of service. And so we lived a few places, and each time I would make it a point to, get the boys settled into their spaces. We have 4 sons, get them settled first and then move on to the family room and my bedroom. But it was always really important to get our home, set up in such a way that we felt like, okay, this is home now. All the different comforts and just the vision of space and giving everyone their own space and, just redefining what the boundaries are between the 4 sons and our own bedrooms and private areas. So yeah, setting up our home was always a really important step of that move when we were in the Navy.
That's so cool. With 4 sons.
Yeah.
Now, okay, when we think about these sacred spaces, we're serving college freshmen.
Okay.
That are actually, dealing with the transition of college and what that feels like and the anxiety, right? of going to college and how you don't even want to let mom know that you're nervous about becoming an adulting.
Yeah, that next step on the journey. Yep.
Yes. And so I happen to be that big sister, that friend, that auntie to these young students. And we focus on their comfortability and just transitioning. And so we also focus on that college student that is a graduate heading out into the workforce and just all the anxiety that comes with that. So when you talked about as a young person that you had these uncomfortable feelings, but you found purpose in interior design and you found safety. I mean, wow, what does safety look like to you now? And how would you define a sacred space today?
Right, right. So a sacred space, by our definition, is a space that's set apart for a certain purpose. And it is helping you be more of who you are and helping you to become who you are intended to be. So it's really supportive in the way we design to your senses. We bring in your two primary ways of relating to the world. So we all have sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing, but each of us maybe has a heightened sense of one of those, one or two of those. So we bring that into our design process. And for example, it could be smells. You might have a really keen sense of smell. And if something smells great, you're in a great mood. If something does not smell so great, you're like looking around like, what is going on? You're very irritated. I noticed that for myself with my sons when the kitchen wasn't clean. It wasn't so much that they didn't get it done, it's that something is stinky in this house. Let's get that taken care of. So just being able to mind how you're interacting with people and how you're interacting with your space, knowing that your senses are giving you a certain input. So, how that would translate to maybe a college student is, I would say, bring in those things that remind you of home, that make you happy. Was it your mom's perfume? I don't know. Was it a certain cleaning product that she used? What aromatherapy did your mom use in your home? What, plugins or air freshener is something that reminds you of home? Maybe that's something you can bring into your dorm room to help it feel more like, where you come from. But then you also get to determine how you move forward. So it's an opportunity to experiment with, yes, the things that your mother or your parents, your family provided, but what are some things that maybe you would do differently? It's an opportunity to explore a little at a time and start setting up your own, practices and preferences.
I like that you talked about smells because aromatherapy is pretty big. And do you promote that? You encourage essential oils to be used and diffused as opposed to sprays and things like that?
Absolutely. The natural oils are always better just because they're natural, but they also have properties. So if you think about peppermint or citrus or lavender, like all of those scents were familiar and common to us and can absolutely change the way you feel. So a peppermint is very energizing, but it also calms your nerves and soothes your stomach. That's why they give peppermints at restaurants, right? Lavender is great for relaxation, and then citrus is really good for energy. And, in a dorm room, maybe you would change between scents. If you're studying in your space, then highlight the essential oils that have citrus in them. But then for resting, I would do lavender
Hmm.
because we do both in dorms room, right? It's your study place, your social place, and just your sleeping and resting. So that can become an opportunity to infuse the scents that are going to help your body respond to the different needs.
Yeah, I love citrus, especially orange. It does do something, it wakes you right up. I love that. So now, how can a student in a dorm, we've got all kinds of students that are still back at home with the parent and they're trying to identify themselves as an adult in their parents' home. So maybe they can make that bedroom a sacred space, as you said. But if we're talking about a dorm or even an apartment or even a bedroom, what are some tips? What are some things they could do to like emphasize besides smells and favorite things? Or any other things that come to mind?
Right, right. So there's some really practical things. that I like to suggest to college students, and that would be blackout curtains for those late night study sessions or even the weekend party, to have curtains that, shut out the light so you can sleep in a little bit longer. Although I didn't have much of a problem doing that when I was younger. Now the sun comes in and I'm popping up. But also, oftentimes in dorms, the floor is concrete sometimes, like polished cement. You find that a lot of times. So having an area rug to soften, your steps and keep the floor warmer in the winter time. So area rugs, even a nice fuzzy throw next to the bed would be, fun and cool. Some other practical things are storage, having good storage in your space. Again, as college students, you're living in this, one little space that has to encompass all these different purpose and functions. So having adequate storage for the various activities would be great. So underbed storage, maximizing your closet space with cubbies. There's lots of different approaches that you can use to, totally max out your storage and keep it neat and pretty at the same time.
Clean, clutter-free areas are important.
Yes, yes.
Right, that is true. Now, what about, like, spiritual sanctuaries? Because I'm just thinking, were you thinking in those terms as well? Like, having a meditation corner or a journal corner, if you
We
will?
have talked about that. We have talked about that. I'm a very spiritual person. I was raised Christian in the Methodist Church, and we have talked about creating prayer closets and prayer rooms. But when I say sacred in this sense, not necessarily has to do with any kind of religious beliefs, just self-care, like really making this space something that nurtures you and isn't something that you're tolerating. Like we get to control and manipulate our surroundings so that they support us and not distract from us.
Right, 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 right. Very cool. Okay. I love this. Okay. And that's good that you're saying that it's not always religious based to create a sanctuary. That's important to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when we think about your work life and how busy you are, and you said at the top that you have 4 sons, I mean, wow. How do you make all of this happen for yourself? What does your self care look like?
Oh my gosh. So I am adamant about getting my massage every 2 weeks. That is crucial, especially when they're traveling. I book those out as soon as I get my travel dates. I'm booking massages in between, facials, time with my husband. Like everything that's important to me goes on the calendar. So it's pretty sad. It could be
That's a
viewed as
good
sad.
thing.
But because I'm a free spirit naturally, I was very resistant to this, so that's why I relate it to being sad because it's like, I just want to move and flow and go but the world doesn't work like that for me as a business owner and, with team and all the other things that I balance in life, my mother, family, my husband and our children. So it has to go on the calendar. Like I block it out and I have it color coded. So I can see that I'm getting personal time in and time spent with family, that I'm getting my own alone time, in the mix of all the business and work commitments as well.
Great. And then we were thinking about what we talked about earlier about you have a move-in day mafia is what you call.
Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. So
What is that about? And when does that happen?
yeah. Yeah. My dear friend TJ Mercer started a 501(c)(3) initiative to provide a great start to the school year for some underserved college freshmen. And this past September, we moved in 13 students into Paul Quinn College in Dallas, Texas, where we provided all the things I talked about, area rugs, draperies for the windows, bedding, color coded storage, just all the things that maybe their parents or their family wasn't able to provide. Like they were just getting them to the dorm with, enough clothes and book supplies and maybe not having the opportunity to spend time thinking about how their dorm room would be. So we created these essentially templates, but then once we met the students a few days before install, we were able to personalize and bring in some of the things that were meaningful for them as well. But we gave them really good base and we want to do this nationwide. We want to do it across the country for various HBCUs in support of students that don't have as much family support as others.
That's excellent. And that's for male and female? That's all students?
Male and female, yes, yes, ma'am.
That's great. That's really great. I love that. Now, do you have a preference, the freshman that's coming on the campus for the first time, or you service all of the students?
Well, her vision is to start with the freshmen and support them through their 4-year journey. So, yes, this past year it was freshmen, and I know Christmas we sent them care packages, and we want to, help be that home away from home, that community that they might not have through the foster care system or other challenging circumstances.
That's great. And then you guys are available mentors.
Yes, exactly,
How
exactly.
cool is that? Successful women that they can lean on.
Right,
That's
right.
pretty powerful. I love that. Now, I always like wrap up with these encouraging words, and I'm just so grateful for your time. And we have you here for Women's History Month. I think this is amazing. I'm just wondering for that underdog, there's a lot going on in this world right now. And to pile on all of the problems of the world, young people are trying to find themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
They're really lost, and the pickings are getting slim as far as mentorship and and real support like yourself. Like, I'm so glad we're doing this, you know what I mean? 'Cause they have a resource and a platform to listen to successful people that really want to make a connection with young people. But I'm just wondering if you have encouraging words for that young underdog that's just really trying to find themselves nowadays in this crazy world.
This is a really, really crazy world, and I thought it was crazy when I was younger. I mean, I can't imagine adding another layer of social media and instant news, from around the world. I would say, well, gosh, let me back up and just share a little bit about my own story of being, an ugly duckling. And we all go through that really awkward stage around 12 or 13 as your body's growing and hormones are raging. And that was just such a weird time for me. And, you hit on it earlier about my space being my sacred space. Like, no matter what was going on at school with teasing or not fitting in, like, I could always come home and feel safe there with my family, but then also this little world that I created for myself in my own room. So, I know there's some escapism that can happen these days and we can withdraw, but social media, withdraw in the sense of giving ourselves space and time that we need to process things and to nurture ourselves. But with the, emergence of social media and the constant way of being connected to people, I can see how that would be so, so overwhelming. So I would say, find spaces and times where it's you alone or intimate with someone that you love and trust, to not be so connected to what everybody else is doing in the world, because it is just so overwhelming, can be so depressing in some ways. And then when you start comparing, like anxious, like, am I enough? Am I living up? Or am I, you know, meeting this standard or, keeping up with this, goal or measure of success? It can just all be too much. And so definitely unplugging. I have made myself do that just even as, 50-year-old adult, right? It's like, don't get sucked in. Pay attention to the things I need to connect with people. I mean, it's a great tool for connection. That's how we're connected. It's a great tool for that, but just not to get so wrapped into it and drawn and pulled into it.
Love that. I love that you're saying seek your validation of people that love you.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes.
That's everything.
Mhm.
And then you got to define who loves you and what that means.
Right, right.
There's that part when you're a young person, right?
Right, you get to learn that, we get to have chosen families. Sometimes our families may even need to be at an arm's length. That's a hard lesson to learn as a young person. I think I didn't start learning that till I was in my 30s, right? But I think that we're becoming more aware of our own personal boundaries and our self-care and how to love ourselves at an earlier age, which I'm so thankful for people like you, Yoli, that will take the time and help people, further down this journey quicker than we were able to travel.
Absolutely. Because it was done for me. You know what I mean? So it's my responsibility to pay it forward.
Amen.
And then to have people like yourself to say yes. Like I told you off camera, I was like, I'm always so grateful when you guys say yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Such a blessing. Well, I appreciate you so much. And I wish you continued success and safe travels as you continue out there and make everybody's spaces sacred.
Yes, yes.
So now, if they want to learn more about you, how can they connect on IG or maybe your website?
Yeah, it's Nikki Klugh Design, Nikkiklugh. Interiordesignstudents.com, and it's also Nikki Klugh Design on IG. So would love to stay connected, to be connected. Anyone interested in the field, feel free to reach out as well for any, tips or just pathways that are available to the interior designer, because there are so many. Would love to have those chats as well.
I love that because you did say that there's some certifications involved in interior design, right?
There are, especially if you want to do commercial or government work. Different states have their own set of criteria, but the one thing that's across the board is NCIDQ. It's a certification and qualification set of exams that also require some pre-work to be done. So yeah, we're open to talking about what that pathway looks like to anyone interested.
That's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, especially for those that are not considering a degree. You know what I mean? They're considering vocational aspirations. So this is great. Well, Nikki, I'm so glad we finally connected, man.
Thank you, lady. Thank you so much for inviting me. I wish your students so much love and joy and happiness in their own defined success.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay. Well, you take care of yourself, and I'll be in touch with you very soon.
Sounds good.
All right. Take care. Bye. Thank you for joining us. May your sacred spaces resemble the way you truly care for yourself. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast, and if you would like to learn more about our book club and other special events, join the Back to Me podcast Facebook group, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.